Preview to program. Hello and welcome to Retainer Designer. My name is Cade and this is my new quarantine live stream episodes I'm doing. Today I have a special guest on. His name is Jay Tyler. I consider him the godfather of OrthoLab videos. And Jay, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
All right. And I was going to have Steve Zara. He's probably in the chat right now, but it's fun to have all three of us on the chat together. It gets pretty funny, but I'm sure we're going to have a good time.
Yeah.
But today's episode is going to be about more or less what to do during your downtime, during your quarantine. And one of those things is increasing your education. So, like I said, Jay Tyler, I believe, is the godfather of ortho technician videos. One of the reasons Steve and I both started making our own on using YouTube. And so, Jay, I was going to ask you, so you have some of the earliest training videos out there, and they were on VHS. Do you know what year you released those first series?
I think it was. I think it was the early '90s. I think '90, in fact, '90 or '91, something like that.
Oh, wow.
1991.
1900.
Were you even born then?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was a
Yeah.
70s child. So,
Yeah. There's some people watching who maybe weren't even born back then.
right. And when I say VHS, they may not even know what VHS is.
That's right. Yeah.
Hey, Michaela Hatch, how are you doing? Uh, did you know that there was an earthquake in Boise, Idaho yesterday? Greetings from Mexico City. I'm a follower of you. Oh, good. Welcome, everybody. Hope
Yeah.
hope to get y'all. I don't know about the Boise, Idaho. Did you feel any? You're in Tennessee, so you don't have.
Yeah.
Do y'all?
We really didn't feel a thing.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even notice either. So, uh, so you think that was released 1990? That's amazing. Because I remember the VHS. I think it was a package about yay
Oh,
big.
it was huge. It was, I think, 20 programs, 20 tapes of various links. The retainer video was two videos. I think there were two programs or three maybe that were two VHS tapes each because you could only run 2 hours, I think, on each one.
That was my next question. And so you eventually converted it to DVD, and that's the ones I had my hands on. So you were able to condense that down.
Yeah, I lost the rights of those
We
through
won't get
a
into.
previous marriage.
Yeah.
So they got out of my hands, and she actually did the conversion to the new the DVD format.
Oh, so when my lab bought it, we were actually buying it from you. We were buying it from who had owned the rights. But let's move
Right.
on to
Yeah.
the newest release, which is
Yeah.
Orthodontic Laboratory Basics. And you won't see this, but I'm going to try and show the opening of this, which is 6 videos. Uh, and I'm lucky I got my hands on this. Jay gave me this to review, and it's really great as far as DVDs and stuff. But video 1, we got tools and materials. Video 2, techniques and exercises. Video 3, anatomy terminology. Video 4, space maintainers. Video 5 retainers, and Video 6 expanders. And so actually these are all about 2 hours long. Um, um,
Yeah, the last three are 2 hour, right at the 2 hour mark. I had to keep it below 2 hours, I think, to fit the DVD format, which, I mean, it just happened to work out that way. The first three, I think, are shorter. They're probably more around the half-hour mark.
yeah, and I'm gonna bring up your website, and we're just kind of going right through these. So these are the DVDs, and now you have live streaming.
Yes, I put the program on Vimeo. You can find it at subscribe.ortholabvideos.com. And that will take you to the Vimeo site. And then you can rent them and stream them, or you can download it and buy it,
Yeah,
or you can get the DVD.
so the renting is actually, I think I can play this. Oh wow, that's
I hear it.
Appliances. Now, I've been in this business for several years, and I've had the opportunity to travel around the country speaking to different dental groups. And the question I've heard most from doctors and technicians is, how do you train someone to do lab work?
and that's what we're here to talk about, is
Yeah.
training yourself using things like your DVDs, your live streaming, and using this quarantine downtime to train yourself. And you have thoughts on that? I mean, obviously you've made these videos.
Well, this is the second generation of training videos that I've done. The first, like we said, I did in the early 90s, I believe 1990 and 1991, somewhere around there. And in that series, I had specific videos for specific types of appliances. This one, what I wanted to do was create something that you could take someone off the street who knows nothing about dentistry. I mean, they don't have to know the names of teeth or anything. And the person I had in mind was maybe somebody who's working in the office, in a dental office, and the doctor would want to do a little, maybe he's doing space maintainers or an occasional band and loop or an occasional retainer or something like that, and teach them how to do basic appliances. So I figured if you could learn what the materials are and a little equipment and the basics, and then give you some practice techniques to get you going, and then learn how to make space maintainers, retainers, and expanders, then that would be the basic core of what we do. And once you can accomplish doing those appliances, then you should be able to transition into being able to do practically any type of appliance. So that was my goal, just to teach the basics from step one. And it's really a course. You go from one tape and then you go into the next, and it kind of builds on it. One builds on the other.
Yeah, uh, I like how you just boiled it down to just what you need to know. And that's the great thing about ortho is you learn how to make an Adams clasp, then you can put that Adams clasp on any appliance, and you could just start taking all these and making your own. And I just got a chat from Mahala. I hope I say that right. Her brother is a dentist in Florida, and she said, "Where can I?" Interested in these videos, where can I find them? And I have all your links, Jay, in the description below,
Okay.
to both your website and your YouTube channel. So you can go to his website and you can order this DVDs if you want the DVDs, or you can actually live stream straight from the website and get access to all those. And I'm intrigued in the medical field. I had bracket treatment. I love self-educate how to bend wire. That's another thing is you actually in your store, and I'm going to switch over to that real quick while you talk. You offer a lot of the stuff that you can order from you, like pliers and wires, and that was one of my questions I wrote down is, what would you say are the preliminary things you would need to start, let's say wire bending or something like that?
In this course, I use basic pliers. For instance, when I show how to make the quad helix appliance, I use an extended bird beak plier.
Mm.
And I figure if you can make things with these pliers, you can transition into more sophisticated pliers later. Try to keep it real simple. I even used a plier, a long bird beak plier from a hardware store because it's serrated on both sides and it's easy to squeeze the loops together in the anchor bends, things like that. So it's very simple, down, dirty. This is just to get you started. And then once somebody learns the fundamentals like that, then you can start watching, well, you need to be watching videos like the ones you produce and Steve produces and some of the ones I've produced to learn the more sophisticated nuances of things and find out the different kinds of pliers that can be used. But in my store, the only reason I have that, I'm not trying to make money out of that. In fact, it's almost I won't say a nuisance, but it's no, people would get the videos, buy the course, and then they would want to know, well, where do I get these things? And instead of sending them here, there, and everywhere, I thought, well, I'm going to have just the basic supplies down to get you started. And so that's, what's there. And I don't really promote that or do anything with it. It's really just there to help you get started. There's no bargains or deals or anything like that. It's just, once you get started, then start shopping around and find the bargains and the deals out there that you can, where you can buy things more affordably.
Yeah, and that was one of the things I was thinking of starting was working with Priscilla Meyer with JBC and company and put together a kit you could buy, a starter kit, 100, 200 bucks.
Great idea.
And a couple pliers, some wires, some, example models.
Right.
And just something to start with. But a lot of your videos, like video terminology, you don't need anything, correct?
Right. Yeah. If you have somebody in your office and you want them to start speaking the language that we use,
right.
For a month you can stream the whole program, but really all you would need is the video number 3, the anatomy and terminology. And I mean, I go through as many things as I could think of that to explain the lexicon that we use in describing what we're doing. When you talk to a doctor, you need to know what lingual and buccal and mesial and distal stuff is. So I go through these different terminologies to help get you where you can, and I think it's only about 35 minutes or something like that. And by the time you go through that, if you study it, you should be able to talk the talk.
Well, and so one of the questions I wanted to ask was, why was there a certain order you wanted to do? Because you did tools and materials, techniques and exercises, and then anatomy and terminology. Was there a thought behind that madness?
Yeah, believe it or not, as mad as I can be, there was a little thought involved. The tools and the materials and some of the basic techniques and the practice things don't really involve the anatomy. It's like, this is a plier, this is wire, this is acrylic. You need to know what these things are. You're going to be using them. And here's some of the science behind that. What happens molecularly when you bend a wire? And, just things that are just good to know. If you're going to be doing something, I think it's good to know the science behind it. And the materials, these are the tools and the equipment that you're going to be using. Actually, these are things that I use. There's different ways of doing things. I don't have the way to do it. It's just the way I do it. And it's a good place to start for someone. And then watch things that, videos that you put out and Steve put out and learn different ways of doing things. Then you can try different ways and find out what's comfortable for you. But it's a good starting point. And so the equipment, things like different speeds on, like if you're grinding something or polishing something or smoothing something, those are different speeds. I've had employees in the past who would just crank up a handpiece to polish something, and it's just like, whoa, that's too much speed. You're gonna burn through that thing, crank it down. Just, they need to know these basic things before they get into the actual bending of the wires and the making appliances. Now, some of the wire bending techniques I use in one of the earlier videos, but by the time you get to the third video, you need to know the anatomy and terminology, because I use that throughout the next
yeah.
3 videos where I'm talking about space maintainers. You need to know what the first permanent molar is. You need to know why they're losing their deciduous dentition, what that term means, and what's going on.
Okay, so that makes sense, because it builds on top of each other is kind of
Yes.
what you're saying. And so let's see, we got through these. You're really good at answering these questions.
No, well, thanks. Had to do it a few times.
Yeah, I bet.
I've had a lot of calls, people just wondering what this thing's all about. And my little promo video doesn't explain it, I mean, as well as I can in person. Like, I like to find out from somebody, well, what's your need? I mean, are you a commercial lab? Are you a pediatric dentist? Are you an assistant, a hygienist? What are you trying to accomplish? And then from there, I can tell them how this program might help them out.
One side alternative, you did one just on what I call Essex, or clear retainers.
Yes.
Just because there is that need in every practice. You need an assistant that knows how to make those clear suck downs for. You and I probably agree that's not the best retainer, but it's a good temporary retainer to have.
Good to hold them in place until they get their real retainer.
Yeah, and also a lot of the power of aligners for dentist, orthodontist, are going back into the hands of the orthodontist because of 3D printing and digital models and stuff. So now they want somebody in-house to be able to do all those suck downs, 35 suck downs. So
yeah,
that's in your store too, that I noticed. Is that just a $60 video by itself or something like that? I can't remember.
I don't remember. That's just in the video, in the DVD format right now. I was hired to do that. A dentist hired me to do that. He had a big multiple offices, and so he could afford to pay me to do just that video. But I said, well, I want to do it in such a way that I can sell it. So he said, okay, I don't care about that. I just want that video.
Just give me my
So that's
video.
where that came from.
Oh, that's a great idea.
But it takes you through, from start, pouring up the impressions. If you do that, one of the this program, Orthodontic Laboratory Basics, got reviewed by the Journal of Clinical Orthodontics, and a critique they had was that it didn't show how to make things on digital models. All of the appliances I do are made on gypsum models, Labstone, and so that was a good point. Another one was that it was only in the. It is now streamable and downloadable.
I lost you for a second. You said, what was the other point?
The other point was that it wasn't streamable or downloadable. It was only on DVD format. But we've corrected that now through our Vimeo platform.
Well, and your first point, once you know how to make a retainer, it really doesn't matter what model you're making it on.
Right.
Yeah,
that I'm old school, and when I get a digital model, which I don't get that many of, most of my dentists, I guess, I don't know, when they send things to me, they just send them either as an impression to be poured or as a gypsum product. So when I get a plastic model or a 3D printed model, first thing I do is duplicate it with alginate and pour it up in Labstone, and then that's what I'm used to.
Yeah, and if you do that, the process through the rest of your lab doesn't change.
Right.
It stays the same. So there's no, and then there's a whole patent on the separation of the retainer off of the 3D printed model that you really couldn't have done a video on that part of it without getting sued. So probably good you didn't.
So much in the digital realm. The only information I have about that is what I've gotten from you guys, you and Steve and others out there.
Yeah.
I just haven't gotten into that at all. I'm semi-retired. I just have a few accounts, and I do a part-time lab, and I've asked about that. In fact, I talked to Chris Gajewski about about that, what would be involved in getting into that. And after I got through with him, I thought, oh no, I'm not going to do
Yeah, he's the one that knows all the inside baseball of that.
that. So he just laughed and said, I just want to model. And then I just had one orthodontist. They had a large practice in town. They wanted me to be able to get these SDL files and print models. And I just said, well, I'm not going to do that. And then when I found out who they were, and they were huge, it was much more business than I wanted. And I just said,
Oh yeah.
I'm just a little boutique lab. I just try to do a real good job for very few people. So,
And
I
that's to be commended for sure. And one of the things, and Mahela also said she feels 3D printing is more accurate. Now I could see that it does take away a lot of the errors that taking an impression. There's a lot of steps that could go wrong.
Oh,
Same thing with
yeah.
scanning the mouth, because some of the stuff we get it's accurate, but there's a cheek attached to it or something.
Yeah.
But I feel like they are more accurate. It does take a lot of the error out. And talking about COVID-19, this is disinfected already. I mean, there's no transfer of anything,
Right.
which I thought was is a bonus for sure, because I think I want to say 60 or 70% of my models that come in are digital that I have to print. And,
Wow.
Yeah, and it's one of those things. If you build it, they will come. If you have a 3D printer, they will come. And it probably took a half a year to a year for the inflow of work to come in.
Yeah.
But one of the things is, I hope that some people that are watching or that will watch this, that are at home doing the quarantine thing, that they were able to bring some work home. Because you could do this at any kind of desk. Most of this practice, get good light, a couple pliers, some wire, model, and you can just practice to your heart content.
I used to take models and wires with me, and would let my wife drive, and I would sit over there and bend wires while we're driving across the countryside.
I always wondered if were you the one that was telling me that wanted to do, or somebody, an RV, and you just can travel the country but do lab work and just ship,
That's a good idea to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I never thought you could bend. Do you get car sick?
Well, some people would, but I, for some reason, don't.
Oh, that's great. I did a presentation last October, and I was running behind on it because we had to work. My wife was nice enough to drive me through the night, and I'm over there on the laptop trying to get my presentation. And I thought at that time, could I bend wires? But I guess you can.
Yeah. That's one nice thing about what we do. You can do it just about anywhere. It's been a nice day before, and I would just take a table out in the backyard under the maple tree and bend wire.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I'm kind of showing my little lab I have right now as a preview to everybody. You can't see this, but it kind of shows the little area that I run my whole lab out of. So you can actually see. It's kind of dirty because my wife was trimming retainers just right before we got on. And I had to get her to stop, and she had to eat lunch anyway because of the sound was invading my head in my headphones.
Yeah.
So the people you talk to on the phone that call you, and you get where are they at in their career or what they're wanting to do, how many of them are starting from beginning? How many of them are kind of, I just want to learn the next step, or were they in a lab and they're like, all I do is trim retainers all day, I want to learn how to bend wires? You get any of those kind of questions?
Mostly it's been, I would say, 80% of the calls I've gotten have been people in either a pediatric dental office or an orthodontic office who are looking for somebody to learn how to make appliances. So they have a base knowledge of different levels. Either they're like a front office person who knows nothing, just maybe heard some terms loosely here and there, or maybe it's an assistant who's been through training and she doesn't necessarily need the beginning. Well, the tools and the equipment and practicing the techniques. She needs that, or they need that. And then the specifics on how to make the different appliances. Then I've gotten maybe 20% of the calls have been they want to make specific appliances. And from that would be some of the labs calling to, find out, does this show you how to make wraparound retainers, something like that. And that's all they're interested in. For that sort of thing, you can go online and go to search in YouTube, and you've made wraparound retainer videos, right. I'm sure, and probably Steve, and I mean, there's just lots of stuff out there at YouTube if you want to find some specific technique. The OrthoLab Basics is really a course for those who really don't know much about this business, and it just starts from the very beginning. If you know something about the business and you just want to know how to make retainers or space maintainers or expanders, then you could just watch the last half of it. If you don't know the terminology and that's what you want, you could just watch the third one. So there's some specific things that you could get out of it, but the total part of it is designed for someone who knows nothing and takes them right from the beginning all the way through to making expanders and space maintainers and retainers.
That seems to be important. And you said you can search on YouTube, but it's not as structured as your video series here. But I think you have the right point. You could start here, get your basics, and then expand. Because once you learn how to bend, generally you could probably mimic what you see on a video, either mine or Steve's video,
right?
And go, oh, there's a lot of other videos out there. And in fact, Mahela, who's commenting a lot on here, says she does it for fun.
Well, it is fun. I mean, like I say, I'm semi-retired. I have retirement income, but I like to do this. And I like the relationships I have with the different clients. Every year I turn the burner back a little more, and I've gotten it down to where now it's just me and my favorite clients that I've had over all these years. Most of the people I do work with, I've done for years. A lot of the guys I've played golf with, and it's just like a little dental family. I don't know if that's because I'm down here in the South in Tennessee, or if it's just
lost you for a second. It said something about being if it was just being in the South in Tennessee, and then I lost you for a second.
Yeah, I don't know if it's this friendly rapport that I have with my clients is because I'm in the South in Tennessee, or if it's just that I've known them so long. But I have really good relationships with everyone that I work with, and I've known them for many years, all of them, and like there's a few I haven't even met. Like there's one fella in Montgomery, Alabama, and he's a big golfer. And every time he calls, we'll talk golf for about 20 minutes, and then we start talking dentistry. So it's just a lot of fun. I mean, I would be giving up a lot of relationship if I quit doing what I'm doing.
Well, and let's talk this career. The ones that are wanting to start a career, how versatile this is, that you can have the biggest lab you can think of, and you can shrink it back down, and you can grow again, you can shrink it back down. It could be just like me and my wife, and I came from a 7-person lab, which was the biggest I've ever worked in, and I think you said at one point you had a pretty big production going.
The biggest I ever was 8 people, and so I built a lab up to 6 people one time. And then I sold that lab, and I did professional film and video production for 10 years. That first batch of videos I made, I fell in love with the process, and so I bought this guy's company, sold my lab. I was able to sell it to a guy from Nebraska, and he wanted to come down to Nashville anyway. And then I started the new lab, the one I've got now, it grew up to 8 employees, and then I started turning it back. So it can be anything you want.
Well, and what scared my wife was she asked, she goes, "You don't see many people like retiring. You know, they just keep going and they get smaller and smaller." And I said, "Yeah, they don't retire or anything. They'll just one day put their head down on their table and pass
It's
away.
over.
It's done. They're like, I bent this thing, put the pliers down, put the head down, and you're done."
I mean, there's other things I love to do, obviously golf, and I've got some other projects and interests, but I just really like the lab. A typical day for me is I get up early. I like to get up early. I get up about 6 or 6:30. I'll put the coffee on. I'll come out to the lab. My lab's in my backyard. I had a lab built right in my backyard. So I'm 13 steps from my back door. So I'll go out in the lab and I'll kind of get things organized, go in and get the coffee, come out here and work for, I don't know, 2, 3, 4, 5 hours. And then I'm pretty much done. And I'll either go play golf or do something with my wife or take the day off and work on one of my other projects. So it's kind of a real nice part-time thing. But I mean, my goodness, I've been doing this for many, many years. And it was fun growing the lab to see what I could do, but I found out that really didn't suit me. It works well for some people. They have the personality type to be in charge of a bunch of people, but in all honesty, I really sucked at that. I was a terrible employer. Somebody would come to me with something, and instead of teaching them how to do it one-on-one, I would fix it and then give it back to them, which is a terrible thing to do. Terrible. So I was really bad at that. But so I realized that about myself, and I thought, I'd be better off with a smaller operation. So I started turning the knob back.
Yeah, found that I'm the same way. I'm too empathetic for managers. I was too nice to the, and I would just fix it. And I would try to teach, but sometimes it's just frustrating because
Oh yeah,
this industry, I feel like you either got it or you don't. It's,
yeah.
especially when it comes to wire bending.
Oh yeah.
Perceptually, to be able to see in 3D what you're going to bend. And I'm not the best, and I've worked with some of the best that are just fast and accurate,
Yeah.
and slow and accurate. I've worked with both, so
Yeah.
it different people are good at different things, and I think turning it back to the quarantine, now's the time to find out if you're good or not.
Right.
And we probably need to put together some sort of Facebook group or page, me, you, and Steve, and maybe Josh and some of the others. Let these people who are quarantined bend something and then take a picture and upload it, and then we critique them on it. And
That'd be good.
yeah, I think
That'd be really good.
we need to start something with that. And maybe you could start something with that with your students. Almost have a one of the things I wanted to put together was a online school that has quizzes and stuff. And now I'm seeing it firsthand how that works with my kids because they're being homeschooled.
Yeah.
Using Google Classroom and all the effort that gets put involved with teachers. I was like, okay, maybe I'll step back from this a little bit and build it small.
Yeah.
But just being
That would be good to have a where somebody could actually do something and show us on camera, and then we could talk about it or watch them actually bending the wire or something and say, why don't you hold your plier like this? And if you bend it against the plier like that, maybe that would, just watch them and critique them. That would be a real good exercise.
and I think you have a lot of YouTube videos, and I put the link below. It's OrthoLab videos. If you search for that, you'll find. You did a whole year, right, of every week. Was it a year? A few years ago you did that?
Yeah, here's what happened. I went to Dallas and I met you. I knew about you, and I'd read an article or two about you in the Lab Management Today. And so we got out there, and you said that I had inspired you to make YouTube videos. And so you started that. And then after we talked, you inspired me to make YouTube videos. So we've inspired each other.
Right.
And
Yeah.
at that time, you had, I think, 9,000 subscribers. And I thought, my goodness, what a format, globally. Now you probably got like 29,000. I don't
Oh,
know. You got a,
I'm at 19. I'm about to tip over 20,000. So
oh, good for you, man. I've
yeah.
got like, well, so anyway, I came back from that and I thought, I'm going to have to learn how to do this social media thing. So I had a young guy working for me. He knew all about it and he got me all hooked up and fixed up. And I thought, okay, I'm going to make a commitment to make a video a week for a year. And so I did that. And in all honesty, I got kind of tired of it. It was really chewing into my golf game. So I fulfilled the requirements of my self-imposed mandate. And then I decided to kind of back off from that. But still, I want to do some videos now that I can't go play golf. The golf courses are closed and everything. So I have time to do that. And I have a video now I want to put out. In fact, I'm going to be putting it out here real soon. I was going to put it out today, but I don't think that's going to happen. My wife's got me too busy in the closet cleaning things out. So, but it's going to be on acrylics. I've had lots of questions over the last several months about acrylics, and I've using some things I've learned from you and from Steve. And one of my one of my golf buddies was a chemistry professor at Vanderbilt. He taught chemistry for 41 years, and I play golf with him all the time. He just happens to teach the Sunday school class across the hall from me, and so we got together, started playing golf. Then I found out he was a chemist. He got his doctorate at MIT. I mean, the man knows his chemistry, so I get to ask him all these questions.
Oh yeah.
Why is acrylic doing this? Why is it doing that? And what happens when you do this? And then another friend of mine is a dentist in Ripley, Tennessee. I've known him for many years. Good friend, Dr. Wayne Dudney. He got a PhD in chemistry before he went to dental school. So he knows a lot about the science of dental materials, especially the chemical aspect of it. And he answered a lot of questions that Chuck, my golf buddy, chemist, didn't know because of the nuances of the dental chemistry. So anyway, I'm going to put all this together and try to answer some questions like why do these things warp? Why do they pull away from the model? And why can't you take acrylic from one company and liquid from one company, powder from another company? Why does that work sometimes? Why does it not?
Right.
Why do I get bubbles? And I've got a list of questions. I thought I'd just read those questions and just go there and explain it all.
Oh, that's a great video. I was thinking of kind of doing close to the same thing and doing some shots of a sped up video of the acrylic as it's starting to set up and the visual cues of what stage it's in. It's real shiny. Hey, this is going to slump on you. It starts getting more matte. Hey, you can start cutting it. And you start getting tiny little crystallization. Oh, you better put that thing in a pressure pot quick. So that, I was thinking of doing the same thing. And so it'd be great to see your video. And if people will go to OrthoLab videos and subscribe, and you can click the bell icon, and you'll get and you can get notifications. So when he puts one out, same thing with my channel, Steve's channel. If you click the bell icon, you'll get alerts of when a new video is out.
Yeah, and especially helpful with your live stream. You get that little bell. You go, oh, Cade's getting ready to come on. That's great.
Because I have no schedule right now. I'm not. We were going to do this Thursday, but ended up both of us had something going on. So we bumped it up to Wednesday, which is fine. When I finally run out of work, I got my last of my case pans up here. When I finally run out of work, I might try to challenge myself and try to do a live stream a day. And
wow, that's ambitious.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes.
A YouTube video a week was just like, I had no idea what I was getting into. And I always like to finish what I say I'm going to do. So I thought, well, I'm under my own gun.
Yeah.
Speaking of YouTube videos, during this time, I would encourage everybody and anybody who's got something to share to make a video. Mm-hmm. Back in the day when I first produced those early videos, I had to hire a producer from Nashville to come down, and I lived out in the country at the time, and shoot these videos. And I'd go with him to the edit suite, and these edit suites were like, they had tape decks and a controller and a switcher. I mean, it looked like the Starship Enterprise control room, and it's so different now. In fact, I was in the business when Avid came out with the first nonlinear digital editing system, and then it went from there. And there was a thing called Blossom Fury that used Pinnacle real-time drivers on an Adobe Premiere system, and that was the first one I bought. And I think it cost me like $25,000. And I mean, now and then I went to Final Cut Pro, and that was a $2,000 program and like 1,500 pages to read to learn it. And but now I'm using Final Cut Pro, and it cost me $200. It's real user friendly, and they just simplified it, so it's real easy to do things. And what's that, iMovie? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, and that's free.
Edit your videos.
Yeah, I use iMovie to edit my videos. It's free.
Yeah. So it's out there. It's real simple. Anybody can make a video now, and I think and you can use your phone. They're really good, decent cameras, and just look at it, make sure you can see it, that it's lit up and that it's close enough to see what's going on. And they don't have to be any great productions. Just I encourage everybody to set up, and then you can send your link to us. We'll look at it, and let the people that we know about it.
Yeah,
we can just kind of share, make it a big, like you were talking about. You wanted to do like a university style study format on social media, teaching ortho lab work. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, maybe we can get that together, and then we could have another live stream and kind of discuss how it works and what you can do to get involved with that.
How did you learn? I'm always curious how people learn what they're doing.
Well, I had braces in high school, and you can't tell. And in fact, this should be coming up soon. I do have my teeth right here, and I've made a spring. And I don't know if you can see. Let's see if I can get. I made my own spring aligner, and so now this is one of the things I'm going to do is do acrylic so I can fix my gap. That has arrived, and so I was in high school. I was a junior in high school, and I was at the doctor's office, which was in my little town that I went to school in, and I was getting adjusted. And the doctor was doing cephalometric examinations. The tracing. Do you remember those? Where they take the profile picture of the X-ray and they trace it and they do measurements and stuff. And it was back then when Medicaid was really big. And so he was having to turn all this stuff in, and he was complaining. He was like, why do you assistants not want to learn how to do this? He was complaining, and me being cocky, and I was just in an art class in school, in a drafting class. And I was like, that looks like drafting and art. I'll do it. And he goes, you're hired. And so that's where, and so I'd come in after football practice about 6 p.m. and I'd trace, and there'd be a stack of them because it was Medicaid.
Whoa.
And there'd be a stack of them, and I'd put the acetate paper on, and I'd trace. And so he would do all the measurements, but I'd trace outline and all the anatomy. And then I'd take out the trash and wipe down the counters. And so during summer, I'd come in a half a day, and I'd sterilize their equipment. And then finally, and this is a funny story, they're like, hey, do you want to start working on patients? I was like, yeah, I guess. I'm a junior in high school. Most of the patients I'm working on were my classmates. But this one, and her last name was Norris. And I remember being so nervous. I was like, she is probably related to Chuck Norris. And if I hurt her, she's going to have her uncle or whoever he is come and kick my butt. And I remember that to this day. My hand was shaking. I was taking off her O-rings. And she was just kind of staring at me like, who is this guy? But then eventually I transitioned to lab school. Wanted to be a dentist. Went on to run track on a track scholarship in college and did pre-med, pre-dental. Applied for dental school. Didn't get in the first time because I was more of an athlete than I was a student. I was one of those stats, and so my grades weren't the best. But then I got this pamphlet in for lab school, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. Now I want to be a dentist. And then my orthodontist I was assisting for at the time was saying, "Kate, I'd do that if I wasn't doing this. I'd own my own lab." He was like, "That's the best business to go into." I was like, "Okay." So I went down there. I liked it. Went to school. Didn't apply for dental school again, and graduated top of my class. Just
Great.
absolutely loved it. And so that's how I got started.
Uh,
Well, what's your story?
well, it's a similar path. I had little part-time jobs in actually an orthodontic office when I was in high school, and then I went to college and I just worked part-time for an orthodontist. Just had no thoughts of really opening a lab or anything. I was dental school bound, just like you. So I did the dental school prerequisites, which included some organic chemistry, which I'm really glad of because that's going to be the base on this video I'm going to be doing here, acrylics work and all. So, but then I got accepted to dental school and I actually started, and I wasn't there real long. I didn't even finish the first year, and I saw what was going on in the lab end of dentistry. And then I saw what the upperclassmen were doing down in the clinical end of dentistry. And I thought, I don't think clinical dentistry is for me. I'm going to do the lab. So I did that. And I've done all aspects of lab work. I mean, I've set up denture teeth, I've glazed crowns and stuff like that. But the orthodontics I liked, and especially wire bending. I just seemed to have a knack for that. It was easy for me. So I thought, well, seems to be the tough nut that everybody has to crack in the ortho lab business, and it comes naturally for me. So, and I enjoyed it. So, and I still do. So I pursued that, and pretty soon I had a lab and a few accounts, and it just grew from there.
Oh, that's so funny that it is so similar.
Yeah.
Yeah, I being an assistant, that was one of the reasons I didn't want to go to dental school was I'd have to deal with assistants. I didn't
Yeah.
want that aspect of it because that could get very not a good relate. Although I was always around great assistants. And in fact, one of my biggest ortho accounts has come from an assistant I used to assist with. She's an
Wow.
assistant in Las Vegas, and she called me up. She goes, "Kate, you got a 3D printer? We're about to lose our lab guy. He's retiring." And I was like, "No, but give me a few months." And so she called me back in a few months. "Do you have your 3D printer?" I was like, "Yeah, I just bought it." So they're like, "Okay," and they started sending me digital cases from
That's
that day,
great.
and then referred me to a doctor in Florida, and he's my biggest account.
Wow.
And so the digital part of this has been crazy for small labs. I'm
Yeah.
statewide, I'm national, I guess, if you can call it that. Working for doctors out of state, and I don't have to leave my lab.
Right.
Oh,
Oh,
you fell asleep.
if I were a younger person, I
Oh,
would be all over the digital thing. But at my station in life, I'm pleased to just continue doing what I'm doing now on gypsum models, and my clients don't seem to care. Um, they do digital and other things, but for me, they just take an impression,
and,
and I'm grateful.
and that I've noticed that there's a fine line of those that are about to retire and they say, "Nah, I'm not going to deal with the digital stuff," and then those that are young that can't afford digital and then end up losing some clients because
Yeah,
of it. And like I said, I was saying, if you have it, they will come.
yeah,
Once word got out that I had one, I started getting calls and stuff.
yeah.
Uh, but
I've
speaking,
had two people want me to do digital, have a printer and all that, and I just, told them the truth that I'm just not going to do that, and so they went elsewhere, and I really didn't care.
well, now that the printers are now cost what that Adobe Premiere digital thing that was 2,500 that you
Uh,
said you bought. That's where we're at. The
oh,
prices are coming down now,
oh, I bet.
and
Yeah,
I want to transition to this whole digital thing and working from home and learning new things. The CDT exam, and you're a CDT, I'm a CDT. You're a FNBC, which is you'll have to remind me what that is.
a fellow of the National Board for Certification.
Yes. Yeah, and I'm actually sitting on the NBC board
Oh,
as a
wow.
trustee now, and I
Great.
got my fancy plaque
All
here.
right.
And
Yes, sir.
for those that aren't familiar, CDT is Certified Dental Technician, and it's kind of like the mini boards that dentists take. It's like boards you would take, and it's 2 written tests and a practical. And for ortho, it's one test is written exam covering ortho, and then one is covering, basic lab anatomy and terminology and morphology and function. And so there's 2 written, and then there's a practical. And I don't know if it's changed, but you had to make 5 appliances start to finish in 5 hours. And so my point being is those written tests are on the computer. So you can now take your test from your home, which is totally different. So people could actually start studying and take their first 2 parts of their written exam from their home. It's
Wow.
it's all online now.
Wow.
And so lots have changed, and this quarantine would have been a lot worse if it weren't for technologies.
Oh, yeah.
Live streaming like this, Zoom, and
Yeah.
if you hadn't had your DVDs on streaming, and that was a good move you did.
Yeah.
Was it last year?
It was streaming to be done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you would have to get the DVDs and disinfect them before you start watching them.
man, all my boxes that come in, I'm spraying them down.
Oh yeah, me too.
And
I
then
let them sit for 3 days and before I touch them again.
Yeah, that's
It's a
that is
different world today. My goodness. But yeah, what a great time to learn.
yeah, and any as we're winding up here, we've been on for an hour and it went so
Oh.
quick.
Well, it did.
Yeah. Any last words on your thoughts of educating yourself over these years that you've been providing educational materials? Any final words you would like to impose on those watching out there?
Video is an excellent format to learn this business. There's so many videos out there on YouTube. I suggest that people take this time and just binge watch your videos on YouTube, Steve Zara's videos, my videos on YouTube. You can just pull up the playlist and hit the first one and just sit there and binge watch and just learn. You'll learn so much. And mix that up with the Netflix videos that you're watching.
So as you're watching Tiger King on Netflix, I don't know if you've watched that or not.
Haven't gotten to that yet.
Yeah.
We're watching, let's see, Ozark. I think that's
Oh.
what we're into.
Yeah, that's been the next big one.
Yeah.
So I haven't watched that yet. I'm thinking about picking that up. And another great thing about this business is I can sit here and bend and just watch a video while I'm bending.
Right.
And once you get to the point where it's kind of memory muscle, and you don't have to sit there and mark everything, you can just bend.
Yeah.
You can educate yourself on the next level, and I do that a lot, watching yours and Steve's videos, and other ones that are coming out. And like you said, if you are doing this, if you're out there and you are learning this or already know, start shooting videos using your phone. Start putting it out there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
This has been a very eye-opening experience with YouTube and just sharing knowledge. And
Yeah.
we all learned how to bend a certain way depending on who your teacher was.
Right.
Well, if your teacher is the world, you have all those arrows in your quiver you can learn from.
So many ways to do things. And I have learned so much from you and from Steve watching videos. There's things that you did that I've been doing for 30 years. I thought, why didn't I know that?
Yeah.
And the learning process never never ends. And I'm certainly not the end all of knowledge in this field. I've contributed to it, but I mean, I'm encouraged that there's so much going on. I mean, my time is kind of past. I've made my mark, and I'm just thrilled to see that you and Steve and others are just going forward into this digital realm, this social media realm, to further educate people on this, how to make orthodontic appliances and build a lab.
And Steve, if you look up Instagram, Steve
Yeah.
Zara Dental, I think he's got over 30,000 subscribers on that. I mean,
Oh,
it's unbelievable. His market has just, and the funny thing was, he's gotten doctors in contact with him through his Instagram channel,
wow.
and I thought that was unbelievable. It's a whole new world out there.
It really is.
And speaking of that, and going back to the chat that's been going on, we got Boise, Idaho. We got Chico Lira from Mexico City watching. And let's see, Artia Telirska. I am from Texas. I cannot pronounce. If your name's not Jones or Smith, I can't pronounce your name. I'm sorry. But she's from Lativa, the Baltic states. So, isn't that crazy? Venezuela. So we got people from all over the world who are all in quarantine together all over the world,
Wow.
watching. And I wish the best of luck to everybody out there. And and thank you, Jay, for taking the time to put this stuff out and helping to educate the next generation. Like you said, you made your mark for sure, and enjoy your time playing golf and doing all that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to phase us out with a video here, and thanks again, Steve. Steve, you're not Steve. You're a younger version of Steve. But I'm gonna let me just go to the video because I've just messed this up. Jay, I'll talk to you on the other side.